A major winter storm is coming to the United States over the next few days, and this is going to bring a ton of snowfall that could shut down parts of the South due to the threat for some major travel impacts and as well as power outages. In addition to that, this storm will bring some ice accumulation as it moves from areas like Texas and Oklahoma back through the Ohio Valley, the Dixie Alley, and then eventually towards the East Coast. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about this big winter storm that's coming to the United States and the cold air that is going to follow right behind it. So let's begin with what's happening across the country today. And good news, the big winter storm that just impacted a huge chunk of the country is now offshore. We are finally done with this. It brought tons of big problems. And though you may have not seen as much snowfall as maybe forecasted in some of these spots, the amount of travel impacts were so major. So many car accidents from Kansas into areas like Ohio and Maryland. It was really just a disaster all around. Hopefully everybody's okay, and I'm glad this winter storm is finally over. But now we need to turn our attention to our next winter storm, which will be coming out of the Pacific Ocean over the next few days, and this is going to blow up here across areas like Texas, Oklahoma, and then eventually move into the Ohio Valley, and even areas in the Dixie Alley have the potential for some snow, sleet, maybe even freezing rain. And then this could become a big time winter storm over on the East Coast as well as we go into the weekend. So things are about to ramp up once again with another big time winter storm, this time much further to the south than our other winter storm we just had. All right, let's talk more about this big winter storm that is going to be coming to the United States, and we'll begin with the jet stream because this gives you an idea of where this is going to be forming and exactly where we're going to start to see some of the big impacts. So this is as we go into Wednesday. We are going to have multiple different things happening Wednesday and Thursday. The first of which is a big cold air mass will be coming out of Canada. This is going to bring the threat for some very cold weather across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and also the Central Plains, where many areas will wake up to temperatures below zero. We could even have some spots as much as 15 degrees below zero. That does not include wind chills, by the way. This right here is where our next winter storm is going to be by Wednesday morning. The other thing to watch for is that this is going to bring some very high winds over in the southwestern United States near California. This actually could bring the potential for some destructive winds, upwards of 50 to 75 mile per hour wind gusts, and that's also going to elevate fire conditions. So just a heads up if you're back over near Los Angeles. But this is eventually going to move to the east, and once all of these different things merge into each other as we go into Thursday and into Friday, including the cold air as well as the moist air out of the Gulf of Mexico and the moist air out of the Pacific Ocean and the trough, it is all going to create this big winter storm effect across the southern plains. And this winter storm is going to begin very slow, and then it's going to start to speed up as it moves east, meaning the initial couple of days here, Thursday and Friday in the southern plains, are going to produce the potential for snow that's going to last a pretty long period of time, which means it's going to stack up pretty quickly. Then it'll eventually speed through the Ohio Valley, and then once it gets near the East Coast, that is where there's a bit of a question mark. But if this trough continues to intensify, it will dump the potential for upwards of 6 to 12, maybe even more inches of snowfall across the East Coast. Now let's talk more about the timing of this winter storm and also how much snow we're going to see and where this is all going to be happening. Beginning with what's happening today and tomorrow, notice how most of the country is pretty quiet. We only have a little bit of light snow falling in the northeast, maybe a little bit of snow back over in West Texas and also New Mexico and Colorado as well as we go into tonight and as well as into tomorrow. But as we go into Thursday, that is when things get very interesting. We're gonna have all that moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, moisture coming out of the Pacific Ocean, and also that cold air coming out of Canada, and this is going to begin the formation of a big time winter storm in the southern plains. As we go into Thursday afternoon, this is right around and just after lunchtime, notice how this winter storm grows in size very quickly with moderate to heavy snowfall across Oklahoma and Texas, freezing rain and sleet across parts of central Texas and also into East Texas and perhaps even back over into northwestern Louisiana. And then by Thursday evening, heavy snow will continue across parts of North Texas and Arkansas. Again, freezing rain and sleet being a problem, which will lead to ice accumulation across parts of central Texas and into Louisiana. And keep in mind, any untreated roadways, which I bet there will be a lot of those, that will lead to the potential for some very slick roadways, which will also lead to major travel impacts. So again, right now, Thursday and Friday, these are the 2 days. If you're in these states, you need to be very vigilant and make sure that you're aware that there's a pretty strong possibility that you're not going to want to travel on either Thursday or Friday in these sorts of conditions. Moderate to heavy snowfall will be as far north as Kansas and as well as Oklahoma, but overall the winter storm threat is really going to be confined, I think, to Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And then eventually, as we get closer to Friday morning, this continues to track to the east, bringing the threat for some snowfall as it moves towards Tennessee and Kentucky. And again, notice how slow this is moving throughout the day Thursday, which is again going to stack up snow very quickly in these southern states. And we we could even see sleet and freezing rain as far south as central Mississippi and as well as Alabama. Now, that particular model only goes out through Friday morning, so we have to go to the GFS model to continue the track here. One thing I want to point out is that the GFS does not show the snow nearly as far south here in parts of Texas, and it's more confined to the Red River Valley in North Texas and as well as Oklahoma, and also it's much further to the north here in Arkansas. But this is a little bit of an outlier model as of right now. Most other models are not showing that, but it does show the threat again for snowfall across northern Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia as we go into Friday morning, and as well as South Carolina. Some light to moderate snowfall across Illinois, Indiana, and as well as Missouri and Tennessee. And eventually, as we go into the afternoon hours on Friday, the snow continues to stay moderate to heavy across several states like Kentucky and as well as Tennessee. And then eventually, as we go into Friday evening and early Saturday morning, this is going to bring some snowfall to areas like the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Overall, our main core of the heaviest snowfall will still be confined again near that low pressure center, so that'll be moving across parts of the Mid-Atlantic region like Virginia. And eventually, as we go into Saturday afternoon and evening, there is a chance that this could become some sort of nor'easter back over in southern New England, but this is a question mark as of right now. It's going to heavily depend on the track of this and also where the jet stream is. If we have winds like this and the jet stream that come more together, I think we're going to have a more northerly track, which would lead to a bigger winter storm back over in the Northeast. But that's, again, a bit of a contingency right now. We're not 100% certain if that's going to happen yet. Now, our forecast with this winter storm for right now is that we do have a pretty high confidence that we are going to be talking about winter storm conditions from Dallas, Fort Worth, back through Oklahoma City, into areas like central and northern Arkansas, and even into Tennessee. The question does still remain, will we see a shift to the north over the next 24 hours, or will we stay around the same? Because again, the GFS model was showing snow much further to the north and not really in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we'll have to watch that trend closely. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest on that situation, because it's a big situation. I know a lot of you that are watching this forecast are in North Texas. The other thing is, further to the north and east, this is where uncertainty does grow. Back over in areas like the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and as well as the Ohio Valley. Will we see winter storm conditions, or will this just be more of a light to moderate snowfall that leads to a few inches of snow? That's where some question marks do remain. I think overall the Ohio Valley and the Midwest will be mostly just a few inches of snow, and then back over in the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and perhaps even parts of eastern Tennessee and Kentucky could actually end up seeing the threat for a winter storm. And we'll show you what the snowfall accumulation totals look like here in just a moment. And then further down to the south here, this is where there's also some question marks. Right now, we think it's going to be more of a wintry mix anywhere from around Austin, Texas, back into Shreveport, around and just north of Atlanta, and also back through Charlotte, North Carolina. Now let's go through the scenarios on how much snow we can expect and also the amount of ice accumulation that will occur here across the United States. Beginning with the GFS model, this is one of the models that's been a bit inconsistent on the last few runs, but is showing the greatest amount of snowfall to be located across the Red River Valley and also back through central Arkansas and into Tennessee and northern Mississippi, where a widespread 3 to 6 inches of snowfall is likely, which would, by the way, be winter storm conditions in the southern plains. In addition to that, I do think we'll have some spots closer to 10 inches of snowfall. Keep in mind, this is something a lot of people aren't saying, but the conditions on the ground are going to be a bit dry initially, and it's also pretty warm still, at least near the surface, meaning the initial snowfall will likely melt and then it will start stacking up, meaning that these snowfall totals are actually a little bit higher than I think what it'll actually be. So overall, these numbers I would say are pretty close to what we'll end up seeing, but again, the numbers will probably be a little bit lower due to those two factors. Now, in terms of the European model, this model has been showing a pretty significant winter storm as well, showing the greatest amount of snowfall just north and east of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, back over near Texarkana and also back into southwestern Arkansas, showing a bullseye there of over 8 to 12 inches of snowfall, and outlying areas there even in northern Mississippi between 4 to 8 inches of snow. And then the NAM 12K model is also indicating a big-time winter storm. This one is much closer to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So you're probably wondering, what do I think will happen? Because these are all very different scenarios. I've got to be honest, I'm kind of leaning right now towards the European model, but maybe a hair further to the north. I think it's too far to the south here. I do think our greatest amount of snowfall will probably end up being in eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas, and maybe far northeastern Texas as well. And then we'll also see some snowfall further to the east. And then in terms of ice accumulation across areas in the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley, this is right now a bit of an outlier. It is showing a very large area for the potential for both freezing rain and sleet accumulation. I've got to say though, I think this is again an outlier. I don't think we're going to see this widespread of an ice storm, at least for right now. That could change as we get closer. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, but for right now, I think we're going to see a very narrow corridor of sleet and freezing rain, probably about 50 miles, maybe 100 miles north to south. It will not be a big time ice storm, I think, compared to what we just saw a few days ago, but I think we're going to see some ice ice. I don't think it's going to be to this level, but a lot of the other models were also showing not really much ice at all. I think there's a middle ground here that we're going to see come across with the computer models over the next couple of days. Again, we are still a few days out, so there will be some changes to the forecast no matter what happens. Now, this is the probability of seeing greater than 1 inch of snowfall out of this winter storm, according to the European ensembles, which have been pretty consistent here over the last few days. It is indicating a pretty close to 100% chance anywhere from North Texas back into Arkansas, northern Mississippi, even northern Alabama, and into Tennessee. There's a very high chance of at least seeing an inch of snowfall. Probabilities obviously drop outside of that. And notice areas like Houston, Texas, southern Louisiana. Unfortunately, you don't really have much of a chance of snow. If you were hoping there for some snowfall here in January, I don't think you're going to see any, at least out of this particular storm system. Here's the probability of greater than 6 inches of snowfall, again, from the European ensemble group. And notice that the probabilities, even around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, near Texarkana and into Arkansas, are relatively high, at least for right now. I mean, they're around 40 to 50%, so kind of a medium chance, but definitely on the higher side of things that we actually could be talking about, again, a major winter storm. And keep in mind, Dallas-Fort Worth, I don't think we're going to get over 10 inches of snow, but our biggest winter storm of all time was around 10 inches of snowfall in those areas. So I think we're going to be around 3 to 6 inches in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, at least in terms of my forecast, but that could definitely change if the heavier snow is progressively slower across areas in Texas. Now, with any winter storm in Texas, there's always a risk for toilet paper shortages, bread going missing, and also going on a beer run before a winter storm. And here's your risk right now of seeing any of those, and as well as Texas closing in general, at least North Texas. Right now, North Texas closing for at least a day or two in terms of school closures, and anything else are at a high risk right now due to the threat of, again, significant snowfall accumulation, and also the threat for some sleet and maybe ice accumulation as well. Now, back over in the Ohio Valley, as well as up and down the East Coast, this is an early look of how much snow we could see. Again, it's not for certain yet, but I do think we're going to have a good chance of snow, again, near the border there of Tennessee and Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. I don't really feel like we're going to see upwards of 4 to 8 inches of snow in these areas. I think the GFS is too high on that, but I do think we'll be talking at least about 1 to 3 inches of snowfall in many of those areas, as long as the track of this winter storm is a bit further down to the south. And then we also could be talking about significant snow accumulation back over in the mid-Atlantic or the Northeast. But again, there is a big question mark right now exactly how much snow we see over there. And I think most of the Ohio Valley and as well as the Midwest will see somewhere between 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. I don't think we're talking about a winter storm that far to the north, but at least there will be a little bit of snowfall up there. Now, in terms of the confidence of seeing winter storm conditions, we have a high confidence of seeing a winter storm in areas like Texas back through Arkansas. The confidence drops off quite a bit the further north and east you go, mainly due to the fact of model guidance right now. We just don't have a great idea of what's going to happen beyond the next few days, but make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest on this winter storm, and also shout out to James Pettis for making this graphic and the one we showed earlier in the video.